Almost every day, we put our health, our money, our entire futures into someone else's hands. But have you ever really paused to ask, why? Why do we trust these people? Well, it's not just a gut feeling. It's actually a powerful and often invisible agreement. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on that very promise that's at the heart of every true profession.
Seriously, think about it. When the stakes are as high as they can get, who's the first person you call? A doctor when you get a health scare? A lawyer when you're in a legal bind? An advisor for your life savings? This kind of trust, it's absolutely fundamental to how our entire society functions.
We rely on these experts because deep down we see them as something more than just people doing a job. We see them as professionals. And that one word, professional, it carries a ton of weight. As it turns out, our trust isn't random at all. It's actually built on a very specific set of promises that we're about to unpack right now.
So what really separates a profession from any other job out there? I mean, it's not just about the paycheck or the years and years of school. It's about belonging to an organized community, one with a purpose that's way bigger than any single person's self-interest.
Okay, so here's the textbook definition. A profession is built on expert knowledge, sure, but the really important part is that last bit, the framework of practice and behavior that underpins community trust. That framework is the whole secret sauce. It's the answer to the trust problem. So let's look at the pillars holding it up.
The very first pillar is a mission that's bigger than just its own members. Think about a trade group. Its main job is usually to help out its workers, right? Well, a true profession is different. It's fundamentally aimed at serving the public good. It exists to provide a crucial service to society.
And this one gets right to the absolute core of the professional promise. You must always put the interests of your client above your own personal gain. It's just not negotiable. Your expertise is there to serve other people, period.
And of course, expertise is just critical. I mean, that's a given. A profession is built on this deep, shared well of knowledge that's been developed by practitioners over decades. And this isn't just theory, It's a collection of proven best practices that help guide members to work effectively and, just as importantly, ethically. Becoming a professional isn't easy, and that's completely by design. The standards to get in are really high, but the commitment doesn't just stop at the door. Professionals are expected to be lifelong learners, constantly updating their skills to stay competent and uphold the standards of their field.
So, it's one thing to have all these big, noble ideas, but how do you actually make them real? How do you enforce them? Well, that's where the blueprint for trust comes in. Professions have to translate their core principles into concrete, enforceable rules.
Now, this distinction is so important. Think of the code of ethics as the why. It's the aspirational vision, the guiding principles. The standards of conduct, though, they're the how, the specific black and white rules for what's acceptable. You absolutely positively need both to make it work.
And right at the very top of this pyramid of commitment is a legal concept called fiduciary duty. This is the highest standard of care that exists. It's the ultimate promise, a legally binding one that forces a professional to act only in their client's best interest.
Okay, I know these ideas can feel a little abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a real-world example. We're going to take a look at investment management, a pretty young profession that's still very much on its journey to earn that complete public trust.
This quote from the legend himself, Benjamin Graham, just perfectly captures the mindset. It's not about gambling or picking hot stocks. It's about a disciplined, thoughtful, and consistent process. The true hallmarks of a professional approach.
So, what kind of challenges is this field up against? Well, for one, not everyone who works in it is required to join a professional body, and that can lead to some really inconsistent standards. And while there's a solid body of knowledge, the profession is now global, which means those standards have to work everywhere, across all borders. It makes having a trusted oversight body absolutely essential.
And that's exactly where these oversight bodies come in. An organization like the CFA Institute basically acts as the architect of trust for the whole industry. They promote the highest standards, they establish the official body of knowledge, they certify experts through some really tough exams, and, this is a big one, they enforce the rules, making members recommit to the code of conduct every single year.
Now, even with all these systems and rules and oversight bodies, we know things can still go wrong. So why do ethical slip-ups happen, even with good people working in strong systems? This is where we get into the really fascinating psychology of how we make decisions.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we have all the codes, standards, and laws you could want, why do we still see those headlines about professional misconduct? Well, the answer often isn't in the rulebook, but inside our own heads.
One of the biggest culprits is something called overconfidence bias. It's just human nature. Study after study shows that most of us believe we're more ethical than the average person. Now, of course, that's just statistically impossible, right? And that belief creates a really dangerous blind spot. It makes us less likely to question our own judgment, which can lead to some serious, even if totally unintentional, mistakes.
All right, so let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway from all this? At its very heart, a profession isn't just a job title. It's a social contract, a really profound agreement between a group of experts and the society that they've promised to serve.
Ultimately, everything we've talked about really just boils down to this. A profession is a promise. It's a promise to use specialized knowledge for the good of other people. A promise that the client's interests will always come first. Upholding that promise is what earns trust, respect, and the right to be called a true professional.
And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. In a world with AI, rapid globalization, and constantly shifting social values, what does this promise even mean anymore? How will professions need to adapt and evolve to maintain this sacred trust in the years to come? The framework is there, but how we apply it, well, that's going to keep changing. Thanks for digging into this with me.